Hey everybody, it's your buddy Beard Grizzly. It's been a while. Hi, hey, how you doing? Today, we're checking out a couple weapons that have been a heated debate for a while now, with good reason. They are Sleeper Simulant and Gjallar. First, I know that Dotto had put out a video on this topic about 2 months ago. This is pretty much for myself, since I had the idea to do this long before he posted his. I haven't seen Dotto's vid, so think of this as my way of seeing how I do compared to someone regarded higher in the community. I'll probably check his afterward, just to see how we both differ or come together on our ideas. That aside, let's have some fun with big guns. Sleeper Simulant is a unique weapon in design, though a couple others share its overall look, like Outbreak Prime and Pocket Infinity, somewhat. The story is deep on this one, but we're concerned with its performance today, so let's break that down. Looks aren't always everything, after all. The first perk on the weapon is its namesake, Sleeper Simulant. Weapon's lasers tear through enemies and ricochet once on hard surfaces. Sure sounds cool. A bouncing laser that shreds through enemies? Cool. You have the option of CQB ballistics and smooth ballistics, but I choose smooth ballistics for the sake of more range. Hipfire is in the next slot, giving you added accuracy firing from the hip, followed by speed reload to reload a magazine faster, custom optics for difference in zoom, and injection mold, better stability at the cost of range. Personally, I find all these perks to be useless, but I go for the speed reload simply for added speed of a new magazine. Its final perk is Activate Akelos. Upgrade lasers to allow multiple ricochets on hard surfaces. The sleeper I have is at max light of 400, for reference. Its biggest points of note, that ridiculous impact at 100 on the scale, which is incredible. With its range being fairly far reaching at 70 out of 100, damage fall off isn't an issue we should have to worry about with the gun. However, it takes a while to wind up with a low charge rate, but being the weapon has some low stability, it gives you enough time to realign your shot for the next one. But let's talk about that wind-up time, because that's one of the biggest issues with the gun. Though you don't have to be sighted in all the time, hipfire doesn't allow for a lot of help. Being accurate on a slow-fire weapon is extremely important. If you need to keep moving, then make sure you charge the shot part way, like most fusions, aim, and by the time you're aligned, the shot should have popped off. It's still the best way I find to use the weapon. This thing is a boss burner. It melts every target it hits for chunks of damage at a time. With a total round capacity of 9, it really does a lot of good work into a target, no matter what it might be shielded by. Running around in the world in strikes or raids, Sleeper is pretty much a go-to. If you're going after a Taken Zealot, large or medium boss, near anything. If it's just annoying the crap out of you, then just hit it with Sleeper. It won't be annoying you anymore. If Sleeper really lacks anywhere, it's in its random nature of bounces. The weapon bounces from one plane to the next, but it really just gives a pretty light show. It's a sleeper rave party, and everyone's invited. This ability really doesn't help much, honestly, and this points out one of the biggest glaring issues that Sleeper has. Its perk trees are nearly useless. The amazing base for this weapon doesn't ask for much help though, but imagine, if you will, it had something more to go by. Not the place for other thoughts. Moving on. Crucible gives me some sick satisfaction using this gun. The power it has is tremendous, and a hit anywhere on the body is going to implode anything that it hits, bounces and all. The timing is a little bit of a pain to really get down, however, and that's where it falls short, along with the fact that you need to really line up a careful shot, almost like a sniper rifle. It just requires a keen hand, so keep that in mind. Oh, and hopefully you don't have more than one target unless they're in line for you, because that charge rate is a no-go unless you're lucky for a double kill. Okay, on to the big wolf in the room. Gjallar. Since year one, this weapon has been regarded as one of the best-hitting rocket launchers, nay, weapons out there. The look, the style, the sound, the perks, every freaking thing this rocket launcher has to offer is amazingly aesthetic and totally unique of the weapon class. Bungie has taken the more is not always better approach with GJALLY, keeping it as fine-tuned and similar to its year one make as it could be. Its first perk is Wolfpack rounds. Rounds fired from this weapon split into tracking cluster missiles upon detonation. Oh man, these are awesome. Next are the launchers, with soft launch being my personal favorite, but confined launch and smart drift control being options as well. Its option set is quick draw, snapshot, and speed reload, where I picked speed reload. Finally, tracking, shells from this weapon track their target. For reference, GJALLY's also at 400. The basis of rocket launchers has always been to cause a lot of area damage. Something like cluster bombs seemed like a really good option for a legendary launcher to naturally take the place of Yellowhorn, but you'd be oh so very wrong. Wolfpack rounds really does make cluster bomb wish it was cool. Wolfpack bolts will track similar to that of a skip grenade from a hunter, but will do a good bit more damage. The weapon reloads very fast, especially with speed reload on, so getting more shots fired at one time is pretty quick. Fired into a group of enemies, lower red bars will just keel over it. They don't stand a chance. Larger targets that do survive are picked off by the Wolfpack rounds. Though not as aggressive as Truth for tracking, it still does a fine job, but nothing over that of a legendary launcher. Having tracking just adds to the deadly kit that is Wolfpack rounds. Yes, I keep bringing up that perk, but it makes this launcher. There are a few exotic perks out there that matter, but this is one of them. You can't not talk about this thing without bringing it up at least 50 times. In Crucible, this thing is a nightmare. If you miss, you're still liable to hit a majority of the Wolfpack rounds because of the pattern of them coming from the launcher. They spread out in a circle, much like a pack would, hunting for prey to pick clean. This is beyond the obvious points. Yellowhorn allows you to move and keep moving, like most rocket launchers. The only time you have to really stop and focus is when you center in for tracking to kick in, and even then, with how fast rockets move once launched, aiming isn't mandatory in all circumstances. The only thing about a rocket is hoping the target stays relatively in the same area you shoot it in. Otherwise you may miss and there goes your damage potential. Rockets in general are not bothered by range or impact stats. They just get into a target and go boom. Damage potential is from the epicenter of the rocket, not from the barrel of the launcher. If your aim is true, you're going to cause a team or group of enemies to have a very bad day. And even if your aim sucks, it's still going to cause some big inconveniences. Okay, let's talk damage, because y'all want to know, I'm sure. I wanted to pick a spot that would play a bit differently to the norm, so we went with Wretched Eye at 320. Why here? Well, what fun is it to just shoot something when you could do it with an ogre hot on your heels to boot? Oh god, please go away. Go away! There's another reason, but we'll get to that real shortly with my closing thoughts. So, you want the easy one or the convoluted one first? Convoluted? Fine, here we go. Yellowhorn is a weird one. Direct hits with the rocket score 18,278 damage to Kovac. There's an aftershock that happens from the initial blast that hits for 5755. Then the Wolfpack rounds. Oh boy. Each Wolfpack round hits for 846 or 1185 against Kovac. The reason I go, oh boy, is because of how each hit goes. Because counting these suckers is a pain. From my count, there's 15 total hits, the single initial blast, the aftershock, and then 13 Wolfpack rounds. There are 3 1185 rounds and 10 846 rounds. The amount of frame by frame looked over to figure this out. Boy. Total, this would give us 36,748 total per rocket. Let's also keep in mind without bonuses, GJALLY has 5 rounds total. If all rounds hit their mark and hit only Kovac, this means GJALLY's total potential is 183,740 damage. Sleeper, on the other hand, is a lot more straightforward. The bounces have a really low possibility of bouncing back on a target, which is good considering if it hits you, you're dead anyway. Return to center isn't a good thing on this gun, or any other gun now that I think about it. Anyway, the Sleeper deals 36,312 damage to Kovac without a tether or any other boosts. The body damage isn't too far off at 29,050, making each hit still pack a complete wallop and give you a pretty awesome light show. Sleeper has 9 rounds without bonuses, and since it can crit, we have 2 numbers to consider. All rounds critting, you get 326,808 damage. If all rounds hit the body, you get 264,450 damage. Wow, well, that was more of an upset than I thought it would be. I knew it would be nasty, but sheesh. Then again, let's keep in mind a couple things. Both weapons are solar, so no matter what we do to factor in shields, both will have the same effect on arc or void shielding. Raw power is the key factor here, and we're not looking at tethers, damage boosts from raid sources, and other factors to even pump up the damage being dealt. GJALLY expenses its ammo faster than Sleeper, so that's something to take into account. Again, it's tough for me to get into the raid and experiment on current tier bosses, but any strike has a situation where damage can be timed, or you could do more damage at other points. That's why it's important to note the idea of dumping rounds quickly into a target. But still, the other point to consider is movement. If you're dead, you're not doing any damage, so the mobility that Gjally offers is pretty significant, with your time to either sprint be maximized and your time down the sights minimized. Lastly, if things were equal, say Gjally having 9 rounds instead of 5, it would do 330,732 damage in total to Kovic, and it requires minimal aim. The damage potential of Sleeper is to a single target, where Gjally could hit multiples. In small groups, this causes it to be much more reliable and devastating, even with the multiple beam bounces that Sleeper has. Damage fall off from the epicenter of a rocket is quite harsh, however, as you'll see here with a few targets. 29,000 to the middle one and around 18,000 to the ones outside, with most of the wolf packs being a waste. Okay, let's sum this up before I keep going in a circle, and we're going to need to do this in list form to make it easy on us all. 1. Mobility. Gjallarhorn wins, hands down. 2. Damage. Sleeper. Potential is there to do more as Gjally, but not with current amount of ammo. Sleeper wins on bosses, but let's not forget that Gjally has the upper hand in groups. 3. Ammo. Sleeper by 4 extra. Yeesh. Again, no bonuses. With bonuses, Sleeper has 12 and Gjally has 7. It's just not a contest at that point. 4. Perks. Gjally. Tracking and Wolfpack are just total wins. The bounces from Sleeper are just poop. 5. Strikes and raids. Sleeper. Oftentimes I'm more concerned with boss damage over group damage. With grenades and other tools, the devastating strikes of Sleeper's lasers just amplify my kit. 6. Crucible. Gjally. The wind-up time on Sleeper is just silly for Crucible, especially with highly mobile, bunny-bouncing targets like Hunters. Travel time is nothing on the laser, but as we've covered already, Gjally just wins with its group-damaging prowess in Wolfpack rounds. Whew, okay, those major 6 points are the ones I feel sum it up pretty well. Tally them up and you have a tie. 7. Aesthetics. Sleeper. I like Hexagon. Sleeper wins. We can all go home now. In seriousness, comparing these two has been fun, but it comes down to the situation that you're in. We use swords for certain bosses and encounters while we would never think to use them in others, like where we get slammed to the face by a battle axe or stomped to death by an Archon. I tried so hard to figure out who a winner was in this scenario, but after playing with the guns further and further, I just couldn't. They're both good in certain situations. The only thing that really stands out is single target damage, but with how fast Gjally can pump out its ammo, it wins in damage per second. Could it be that we've legitimately found a case where things are 95% balanced? I'm beside myself. Bungie, what have you done? If you're looking for my square recommendations, if you're on a boss with no heavy adds, go Sleeper. If you're running around and know there's a lot of enemies, go with Gjally. Both are excellent weapons, and it furthers my thoughts on why I use my heavy slot for my exotic all the time. Thanks for being here and listening to me ramble about these two incredible weapons. Both really make me happy to use, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, or if I missed anything. The numbers tell us only part of the story of these guns, so let me know if I missed anything you feel is important. I've been Beard Grizzly. Keep your guns greased up and your lights strong, Guardians. Take care.